Great. Thank you, Layla, and thank you to the FoundHER team for setting up today's event, as well as leading the FoundHER initiative within Plug and Play. I'm very excited to be able to welcome you today and also tell you a little bit of a story about Plug and Play's beginnings, as well as where we are today within Plug and Play. Plug and Play is a fun personal story for me to tell, as it is a family business, and I happen to be third-generation family member in the family business. So really in the 70s was where the original story got started. We moved here from Iran prior to the revolution there, and started in the Persian rug industry and started Medallion Rug Gallery in downtown Palo Alto off University Avenue. Then in the 80s and 90s, we went into plastic packaging and distribution business. And then in the 90s, where really the story begins, we acquired the building that you see in the picture where it says Google. This is at 165 University Avenue. This is where our CEO of Plug and Play really had his plastic business running out of that building, and started finding clever ways to have tenants that leased the additional office spaces. This was before any kind of co-working space or accelerators back then, and we were fortunate enough to have companies like Google, PayPal, Logitech, and Danger renting office space from us back then. And so we started investing in some of these companies in our building, and taking small equity in these companies as them being, tenants in our building. And back then, we would make friends with venture capitalists to really connect startups to VCs that both were more focused on venture capital, but also that could write some of the bigger checks for these startups. And so in 2006, we thought if this worked at such a smaller scale, why not do it at a larger scale? So we acquired the building that we're in today. This was in 2006, our headquarters in Sunnyvale. And this was really where we initially, had the vision of bringing real estate combined with investments and doing it at a much larger scale, with about 180,000 square foot building, now over 400 startups in that building. And I'll go a little bit deeper into what we specifically do there. And then really in 2012, we started doing these industry-focused vertical programs. So multiple different, accelerators across over 17 different industries. This particular version is more focused on health, but in 2015, we started our health program. And then in 2015 to 18, really our global expansion, which I'll go into next as well. So really at its core, what Plug and Play is an innovation platform. We run over 50 different accelerator programs a year in the most major industries and cities. We also run corporate innovation programs where we work with over 400 corporations to really supercharge and power their innovation activities. And then lastly, we invest in over 200 startups a year, and this is alongside VCs that will co-invest, but Plug and Play has a private family fund where we invest anywhere from pre-seed to Series A, and our check sizes range anywhere from $50K to $500K. At its core, all the different ecosystem players within Plug and Play, really us being kind of at the center, being that innovation platform, connecting startups to corporations at its core. But we also work with mentors that will come and give back and mentor our startups. I'm sure we have some great mentors on this webinar today. VCs and investors. So a big part of our model has always been these startup to VC introductions. We work with nonprofits and foundations. We work with governments. And then also we work with universities. This is a core piece of how we find these early stage companies. And so we do work very closely with the top 20 to 30 universities here in the US to find those pre-seed investment opportunities, but also to acquire talent from those universities as well. Our global reach, so we have over 30 offices internationally. Initially, we started off with Silicon Valley, and a lot of corporations became interested in having plug and plays closer to their headquarters, where essentially we set up plug and plays within the headquarters of our corporate partners to bring more engagement, whether that means pilots, licensing deals, or commercial engagements between the startups and the corporations. And really about a year ago, we kind of realized that we neglected the US. So we started focusing a lot more on the US, with initially Cleveland coming on board as a healthcare hub. We had Northwest Arkansas and Houston, and then more recently in this year, Fargo, as well as Detroit. So these are other hubs where we cover healthcare, supply chain, energy, and food and agriculture, as well as mobility in Detroit. A little snapshot of our portfolio. So as mentioned before, we have been investing since the 90s, where we started in Palo Alto. Now we have over 1% of our portfolio exceeding $1 billion plus in valuation. So at the unicorn stage, we've welcomed several companies actually this past year into the $1 billion plus range. We also have had great companies, both across different industries that have joined our portfolio. Applyboard, a company in the ed tech space that just became a unicorn as well. But overall, we like to invest in companies when they're pre-seed or seed stage, and really help bring that additional value to them to increase their valuation over time. A little snapshot of our success stories. So some of these names you may recognize, Dropbox, Lending Club, PayPal, Honey, who just was acquired and became a unicorn as well. And in healthcare, we have Guardant Health. So several different companies here that I'm sure you'll recognize. But the goal here for us is to really invest in them when they're just, two people and a dog and an idea, and to really help them scale their companies. A little snapshot of our corporate innovation box and activities. So these are some of the corporations that we work with across the world. So each of them fall into a specific industry, and I'll walk through a little bit more of the process, but essentially you'll see kind of a wide range of different corporations across the different industries that we work with. These are the 17 different industries in which we operate. We really started this program in 2012. Initially, we were just working with corporations to identify pain points and match them to startups. In 2012, we started doing this in fintech and retail, where we really got deeper into specific industries and topics of interest, and then ran these 3-month accelerator programs where plug and play doesn't take any equity or charge any fee for the startups to participate. The goal is really to connect them to corporations that are interested in piloting or licensing these companies. So our typical selection process is that we go over about 1,000 startups within our ventures team, and we have about 90 ventures associates and analysts internationally. Typically, we'll shortlist that to about 100 startups that fall into the interest areas of our corporate partners. And then ultimately, we look at 40 of those companies together, typically in person, but right now those are taking place virtually. And then ultimately, we accept about 2%, 20 startups that go through the 3-month program. And then ultimately, Plug and Play's goal is to invest in about 5 of those companies. The rest are really there to engage with our corporate partners, and many times they fall outside of our stage of investment, given that we're focused on pre-seed and seed. And so it allows us to be stage agnostic in the companies that we bring into our programs. And currently, all of our programs are running virtually. So whether it's mentorship sessions or one-on-ones with the corporates, all of that is taking place virtually currently. Great, and that's all that I have from my side. If you're, startup, a VC, a potential mentor, or corporate partner, please feel free to reach out to me or anyone on the FoundHER team. We're continuing to have our events, virtually as mentioned. We have our summer summit coming up in about 3 weeks, where 6 of our programs will be concluding. So happy to extend the invitation to everyone on this group. And also, if there's anything else or any questions, happy to answer them through the Q&A box as they come through, or feel free to email me directly. Thank you so much.